Okay, at this point, we'll reconvene the City of Menasha Common Council meeting. We were at ordinances and resolutions number 2. So at this point, I would accept a motion regarding resolution 4. Oh, there already was?
Yes.
Okay, apparently,
Nichols, second by Alderman. Yep.
okay, there was a motion on the floor for resolution 4 by Alderman Nichols and Alderman Kruger. Is there discussion? Did we lose Randy? Oh, no, you're just, okay, I just can't quite see you. Seeing no further discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Okay, item 3 is resolution 5. Do we have a motion at this time? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move for the approval of Resolution 519, a resolution terminating City of Menasha Tax Increment District Number 5, authorizing city treasurer to distribute excess increment to overlying taxing districts, and approving the distribution of remainder funds from TID Number 5 closure to Strong Neighborhoods Menasha Housing Program, as recommended by the Administration Committee and introduced by Mayor Merkus.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman Kruger. Alderman Sevenek. Do you need the agenda or the?
Both. Yeah, I think I got I don't need the agenda because
Did you
it's
find
right
the
up there.
resolution?
Yeah, the resolution is right here. Okay, so we don't have a dollar amount in this resolution, correct?
There's an approximate amount. We will not know the final amount until the audit is complete.
Okay,
You could direct a portion of the remaining funds to one area and the remainder to another area if you so desire.
okay, well, as I had stated earlier in the administration committee, I feel that the 871,000 into this program is too high, and that I would recommend that 200,000 of that amount be reduced by, would that be the more appropriate, reduce it by?
So I think the motion would be to direct $200,000 of the remaining funds to
The general fund?
okay, to the general fund, and
For-
the remainder to the Strong Neighborhoods Fund.
Right,
So we have a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Discussion. Do you have discussion on the amendment?
Yes.
It's going to go in order now. That's the only way I can do it.
Gotcha.
Alderman Grady?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I totally echo Alderman Sevenek's feelings about the TIF money and the amount of it being in this program, the $800-some thousand. I'm leaning more towards half. You have a lot of people that have lived here a long time and have paid taxes, and I've always, Menasha's the highest tax, but you're not comparing apples to apples that way. And it's time for these TIFs to come to fruition like this one is, and start to reward the taxpayers that are currently on the tax roll, and develop some type of carrot or give them a kudos, because I know Alderman Rapella's district and some of mine too. I mean, there's some high taxpayers in those areas, and to give them the satisfaction or the know that we're looking out for everyone here. So I would recommend more like half, but I don't know if that's can be seconded or changed or whatever, but we'll just keep that open for debate.
So 2 questions, Director Jacobs. We will be seeing an amount going on the levy as of 2020 as well. Do you have that amount to, and we would be able to use that for either tax reduction or services depending on the will of the council when we set that budget?
Correct. I wanted to respond to Alderman Sevenek's question earlier. There is tax relief already built in, irregardless of all this fund balance that's left over. We do have the blessing of, with the additional tax valuation of 10.7 million that's gonna come back on the valuation, not only of the city, but also the school district, the county technical college. The school district will be the biggest benefactor of that, obviously. But that would provide, the city's share of that is $105,000 annually. So that would, with the closing of TIF District Number 5, you're adding $10.7 million. It adds $105,000, which is roughly 10 cents off of the rate. So that would come off automatically that way. Then the bigger blessing with this one is there is exempt computer aid payment that we have verified over and over the last couple of weeks with the state and with existing policy and that the Department of Revenue follows. That exempt computer aid drops or gets pulled from the TIF district. It gets dropped into the city's pocket. Does not have to be distributed between the county, the technical college, and the school district. So that $568,000 is an amount that also gets added automatically annually unless something happens goofy with the state budget going forward here this summer. So you add the two together, you have the 105 for the annual taxes, you have the 568 for the exempt computer aid that actually is coming from TIF 5. So that total combined will be $673,000. That is additional tax dollars that is freed and available for the council to decide whatever you want to do with that. That could be considered for tax relief, paying down debt, or adding, funding some other new program or something. So that's the one thing with the closure, what happens with that. Then with the amount of money that was proposed, what I had just thrown into my memo, it indicated based on land acquisition, that could be very costly, not knowing how many parcels that the city would be considering, how many community development department would be proposing to the council in the annual budget. It could be from $30,000 to $50,000 for each parcel. So I mean, I just put in there so if you're looking even in $300,000, that could be anywhere from 6 to 10 parcels. That is a big, huge chunk of that $876,000 that we have kind of talked about with the creation of the program. So, I mean, when I think about the creation of the budget, the Community Development Department will be proposing on an annual basis to the council, this amount would be for this many parcels for land acquisition, and then the other allotment could be for grants, loans, paint restore, lead programs, all the others. So, and the thing is, how many parcels could there be out there that might use up a huge amount of that amount of money over time? And how long do we envision this being the sum available for that program? And then at what point when the money dries up, then are we gonna try to funnel it through, another TIF that might close and redirect more monies as additional seed money? Do we look for additional maybe future grants that the state might offer? There's a lot of different ways to do this. But I just kind of threw it in my memo out there thinking just the land acquisition piece of that could be very, very costly, not knowing how many parcels there could be that we might want to target or aim for. And it's not all going to be done in 1 year. Of course, this is over a period of years. So you'd see a real allotment every year for maybe targeting this many parcels and then this many quantity for all the different other parts of this program that would be available to the taxpayers and the residents.
Would you guys yield to me so I can reply back?
I need everyone to turn their light off because I didn't take the iPad back. So, okay.
Comment. And that's, like Alderman Langdon sidebarred here, thought maybe it should be a little higher too. And that's why I thought, after what John just said, that's why I kept it to 200 and not more. I understand where Alderman Grotti's coming from. I think in some ways that's a very good idea. But I think that if we do that, this program would possibly fail. So I think the 200 is a fair balance, and because we do have, like John explained, we do have additional tax relief coming from that. Thank you for yielding, guys.
So I did want to give Director Schrader a chance to comment a little bit about what do we need to make this program successful dollar-wise? Just-
Yeah, I greatly appreciate that, and I greatly respect all the kind of the voices that have been opinionated here. What we really want to do with this program is be that massive change, be that change that Menasha could never get over. And I would strongly encourage and recommend that the Common Council does not cut any funds from this program, truly. Again, as John had noted, part of this program isn't just putting paint on your house. It's not just, converting single-family homes that can be very costly. Part of this is also a tool for our common council to take those problem properties down. You look at this past year, we've had several, former drug houses, heroin houses that have gotten to that point that, they are eating up police calls and potentially dangerous to the community, and that sticks with that. To have a potential funding source to go after those is also a major portion of this project. If we cut that $876,000 by $200,000 to $676,000 roughly, we're looking at maybe 3 years of that program. Maybe 3 years. I don't think we have another TIF that could come in that time frame to replenish this district, and that is kind of why we structured it to hopefully get out to that 4 or 5 years. One that puts Menasha in a program and that gets enough hype with the entire Fox Cities that Menasha is doing things that no other community is doing to get people to live here, come here, and be a part of our community. And the last thing we want to do with that is to create that vibe, get everyone excited about that, such as the lead grant program where the funds ran out, and then no longer have funds to continue this program. So again, the amount, why we do see it as large, it will be budgeted on an annual basis, that we will take that right back to this common council for their consideration. And we can see how that program operates, and maybe there are tweaks that need to go along with it. But I would strongly encourage that none of the funds be taken from this program, so that we as a community and as a council can be that change that Menasha needs for our housing stock. We've talked about it for years, much longer than I'm sure than I've been here, and we have the capability of doing that. And I would, again, strongly encourage this full amount to stay in so we can make that difference, get out 4 or 5 years, get hype in this program, and then potentially, if needed, there is assistance in that realm to refill this fund or potentially rework that program. But again, a large portion of this program, as John noted in the memo, is also the city council's tool to actually acquire those properties. Similar to us actually acquiring the Bryn property. That property, we will get it developed, but I promise you that if we didn't take on that step, it would sit vacant like the Gilbert property for many, many more years than it is going to take us to get a developer in there. So again, I completely respect how this outcome is tonight, and we will move forward accordingly. But I would strongly recommend, from a community development standpoint, that this full fund remains in place. Thank you.
Yes. I have it.
Alderman Kruger?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to sort of echo some of the stuff that Sam just said. The housing stock, again, has been an issue at every debate I've ever been to, at every election I've ever paid attention to. The housing stock has always been a concern. And the residents aren't stupid. They know that the condition of housing stock affects their taxes, affects their values, the whole 9 yards. And we actually have an opportunity to be able to address this for once. And it's a great opportunity. And now I understand that there's some part of the communities or some districts out there are in a lot better shape. But you have to trust me when I sit there and say, you visit any of the cities that have issues, when you have outlying areas with nice houses and all that, and the lower quality housing, the lower housing, the smaller housing, those areas get ignored over time, it's gonna cost a hell of a lot more to try to bring those back up and into shape. And sometimes it doesn't even happen. Sometimes those areas just go downhill to the point that you can't turn them around. We have an opportunity, a very good opportunity to try to turn this stuff around right now. We have the funds for it. I mean, I understand wanting to, for the tax relief, but, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but if we take, for say, $200 of this, that's basically just a 1-year relief. If we take it, heavy tax relief, it's gonna be 1 year, and that's gonna have to be made up in the budget at some time again either. But the main thing is that we did this, and it's a concern. It's a concern throughout the whole city. Everybody knows that we have to deal with our housing stock, and I do believe that this is the perfect opportunity to be able to do it. And again, if we ignore it or we don't do it right, it's just gonna cost more in the long run, or possibly get to the point where you can't even deal with it, because we're never gonna have the money to deal with it at all. We have the money now, and it's a good plan to be able to do it, and I say let's just keep on track and try to get this done.
Alderman Rapella?
Thank you.
I can't turn you back on once you turn yourself off.
I got it. All right. Thank you very much, Alderman.
Well, now Stan's in line, sorry.
Go ahead, Randy.
All right, thank you, Stan. Okay, John, you and I must have been thinking about some of the same things, about, the TIF. And when is the next TIF coming due, or going to be due?
We have them scheduled like every 2 to 3 years.
Okay,
Now, the next big one, obviously, is the festival, is TIF 9 of the Oneida Debris
Okay.
Corridor. That, I don't think we have that one planned until somewhere between 2027 to 2029, so it's like another 9 to 10 years out. That would be the big one with a lot of valuation there.
okay.
This one didn't have a lot of valuation of only about 10 million, but it has that huge computer aid of 568,000. All of our other TIF districts, it's a combined less than $20,000. So we're not getting a huge bonus with any of those closing, with the computer aid being transferred from the TIF to the city. This is the big one for the computer aid. So it's not in the property taxes, it's in that computer aid payment that we get. Assuming that the state budget continues to fully fund it going forward, it doesn't do something strange
Okay.
going forward in time.
So every TIF is not gonna give us $876,000?
Absolutely not, no.
Okay,
No,
all
this
right.
just, this one has the big computer aid payment that would transfer to the
Understood.
city. yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, then I'll go to Sam, and I understand Sam's idea that we wanna have money in reserve to purchase some properties that we deem necessary to purchase. Do you have like a list of your top 10 properties? Now, you don't have to share them, but a list of your top 10 properties that you're hoping to purchase in the next 2 to 3 years, and what that possible cost would be. Is that something that's in your?
Oftentimes, it's not a list, it's an opportunity. And if you don't have those funds when that opportunity arises, it just turns into that next landlord situation.
Okay.
And it continues that pattern of another 10 years of police calls and things of that nature.
Okay.
So while I don't have a list, there are a couple out there that we could look into acquiring at this moment. And one of the big things with that, again, is not just to acquire it, but it is to also work with another contractor to rehab that house or to infill that house. But again, without that funding mechanism to start that conversation, it hurts us just to let them pass.
Okay.
It truly does.
All right. Okay, thank you. And then one more thing. John mentioned something about the lead program. Could any of this 876,000 be used to, I think the lead program is important to have we're going to fix up some of the lower income housing, and lower income housing is also suffering from the lead program as well. It's not, it's not the newer houses that are hurting right now. Is there any way that we could slide, instead of giving that tax relief, I know it'd be a 1 year type of tax relief for the homeowners of the city, but could we slide, would $100,000 be a dent to help fund some of the lead program and take it out of the 876?
When we had this discussion, and Director McKinney had this discussion with the council some months ago before we adopted the budget, there was and along with the Menasha Utilities, there was a commitment for the city to fund a program for 10 years, and the dollar amount that we were going to put in the budget was $43,530. We did that in the 2019 budget, and that was used with tax levy dollars. Now, so the question will be, how do we come up with the remaining 9 years if we get all the 10 years fully funded? Where does the remaining 9 years come from? Does it continue to be funded by the tax levy, by everyone, or do we use some of this program money for this? This will not fully fund the entire remaining 9 years, this allotment year. But then it needs to be shared with property acquisition. It needs to be shared with other parts of this program for grants and loans and things. So just in your back of their mind, to fund 1 year was roughly about $43,000. So this might provide us maybe a couple years of funding for that, but it will not fund the remaining 9 years going forward.
Okay, so how are we planning to fund the rest of the 10 years? You were talking about off of the tax levy, or?
Well, right now, if there is no other funding source, it would be the tax levy to fund this. You would not want to use your fund balance of the general fund to do this.
Okay. Okay,
If-
go ahead, Sam.
If I may address a portion of that question. So part of this program is obviously the major interior renovations. And I'm gonna probably bite my tongue, but I believe over 80% of actual lead poisoning comes from paint and lead within the house, not necessarily the lead lateral. So again, this is tackling our lead issue. Obviously with Flint, Michigan, lead in water gets a lot of discussion.
Sure.
But I will tell you that lead within the home itself, whether that be a windowsill or paint or whatever, is still very prominent in those older homes. And this will tackle that, and it will tackle it probably more directly than it will to replace that lead lateral.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Director McKinney, I think, wants to comment a bit on lead, and I have a question for Director Jacobs yet as well. So.
Just a comment on lead. The EPA estimates that to remediate, and you are correct, 80% is paint, 20% is, laterals and other issues related to water. But it costs, according to the EPA, anywhere from $9,000 to $13,000 per home to remediate hazards and get the correct contractors in to remove the lead paint and restore. So it is it's an expensive endeavor for families.
So, Director Jacobs, could you talk a little bit, if we would take $200,000 one-time money, apply that to the levy, take that off the levy, what that does in 2021 with levy limits, and how that may affect us? Would we even be able to?
That is not my direction. My direction, if I may.
Sure. I can't turn your light on, unfortunately. I didn't realize we were gonna talk this long. Oh, then we can, sure.
Yeah. My point is this, and I guess I'm gonna go on seeing I'm recognized, and that is, I'm not looking at just putting it on the levy. Let's start reducing our debt. I can't remember
Okay.
a number of times here that you guys complained about our terrible debt. Well, here's a little sum. Hey, now we're getting off base. We're talking about all these programs. Oh my God, we gotta do this and this and this. This is a new program. You're adding something new now. This is something more that we're adding to the community as a service. We're not the answer to everything, okay? Listen, if we're at least doing something, and I think it's a lot more than a lot of other communities are doing. All I am asking is that I feel that the dollar amount that's being asked, in my opinion, is quite high. And it will get us through the next few years, and and it's more than enough money for the next 3 or 4 years, okay? And if we have to, maybe this program doesn't work. So why are we throwing all this money at it? Let's have some debt relief here first. I think this is an absolute fair compromise. I could have came in and did you know, what Ted was asking to do, but I worked with staff, I talked to individuals, and I felt that this would be the fairest compromise, and yet have an outstanding program to address all the needs that you're talking about. But remember, this is now a new program that we're offering to the community. We haven't been doing these things, and that's why I'm in favor of it. Otherwise, I think we take the whole amount and apply it to our debt. But I see the good that this can do. I could see that, how it can help our community, and as Alderman Kruger explained before too, it seemed like that was an issue always in the debates. What are you gonna do about our housing stock in this community? I know that, Alderman Tom Grady has issues with, you know, some of that also too, especially with maybe even some of the businesses in that. And this all kind of works together. So, I think this is a fair compromise. I think we should move forward. We should vote on this. And, I know I've taken up most of the time on this debate, but, I think we're getting off base. We're just worried about all these other things and how it's gonna be funded, but that's different. This is about this strong neighborhood program, a brand-new program, and I think the funding is more than adequate.
So that's a little different picture than what I thought you were trying to do. What I didn't want people to think was that next year we're gonna take $100 off their taxes, and then the following year we're gonna add it back on, because that would be very difficult with levy limits. So, so we could have put it in the debt service fund rather than the general fund, if you'd rather do that. But the general fund is fine too.
Easiest way for you guys to
Sure.
deal with it.
Alderman Taylor. Whoops, I'm sorry, Alderman Grady is
Oh,
first.
thank you, Mayor. Getting back, I too want to echo Alderman Kruger's points that he made about the program and the debates you hear and the things that go on in the city. Maybe I was being a little greedy with 400,000, and I'm more than happy with 200 if that's what we can agree with tonight, because it is a very good program, Sam, and I think we got to spruce up our neighborhoods and what we do have. And to echo what Director Jacob said, if people start buying lots, moving in here, more money's being spent, and we get more money through our taxes and stuff, and it'll help the overall picture too. So I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
Alderman Taylor.
Sam, how are we going to promote, you were saying how you want, you know, I appreciate everything you said and how you want this to impact Menasha. And how are we going to let people know that throughout the Fox cities that this program's here? And
The intention of a part of the marketing fund of 1,500 was to actually go right to the realtors, go to a realtor convention, have a realtor convention ourselves. If you get the realtors to sit in a room, listen to what this program has to offer, because they're the ones out selling Menasha. They truly are. They're working with a property or a property owner that's maybe selling their house. They're looking for a new house. Okay, yeah, you can move into Nina and do that, and fix up that house, or you could move into Menasha, and they offer this program as long as you live there and put pride in your community for 5 years. So that's one of the things that again we'll be kind of going right after the realtors, and we can also use that opportunity to educate those realtors at that same token about our tax rate and what that tax rate has to offer.
okay. And of course, as was mentioned earlier with code enforcement and things, is there any way that any of these dollars can be used to help shore up that code enforcement? Is our residential building inspectors, are they allowed to do that with code enforcement? Seems like we got all our cards on one person, and I don't know if that's the best.
We certainly, every department takes their fair share of code enforcement. There's a lot more code enforcement going around than probably what it can be imagined just by driving through kind of your neighborhood. I can promise you that, but we certainly last year had kicked off the property survey program. And continue to do that. We actually, just a couple weeks ago sat down and analyzed how we're gonna make that program better this year, get better responses throughout this coming year. And obviously having the paint and restore program fully functioning coming into this year, we do have that brochure that we put right into there and say, you know, your house from a sidewalk survey or whatever does need to be fixed up. Here's what Menasha is doing for you, and we can throw that right in there. So that's something that we'll be doing moving forward.
Because earlier I have to agree with the member of the public that spoke, because code enforcement isn't working in her neighborhood, and I would like to see, that program work for everybody. And when you have an habitual violator, it just doesn't go anywhere. It just keeps going around. Talk to Greg Kyle, talk to David Bach, talk to Sam Schrader, and
Okay, we're getting way off topic here.
I
This
know
is
it, but
about-
it's part of this too, Mayor, and many other people got on lead lines and other things too, but I'm just talking about
get
how
it.
this program is gonna work
And-
successfully for the community.
And our
That's what I'm looking
former
at, Mayor.
community development director and I had tried to purchase one of those problem properties that person was talking about, and she discouraged us from purchasing it. So it kind of goes both ways.
Maybe we can have a workshop on something like that too, on how we might look at a better way to go after these properties. Our housing stock, it's hard to believe that our housing stock's coming up on well over 100 years old in the community. And I really like some of these graphs you gave us here that, we're not at 40%, we're at 38.5. The average considered to be a healthy ratio for a city is 35%. We're only 3.5% off on that. That's, it always seemed like everybody was saying Menasha's got the most, and according to these surveys, we don't. And but we certainly have a very old aging stock of homes, and I appreciate your department. I appreciate the mayor for years, going back to community development directors, and Mayor and I have had many discussions on this, and I know the mayor was looking at federal funding for this, he was looking at state funding for this, and just about everything that's in this, as I've talked with you about acquiring a home, when it gets to the point and you get that next flipper that jumps in front of us, and then you just said it's another 10-year scenario there that we struggle with this. And you look at the blocks where we've tore down a cancerous home, 700 block of Taco Street, 400 block of First Street. As soon as that home's gone, boom, that whole neighborhood's got new life to it. And it does really have that broken window effect when you have a home that takes the whole block down with it. So I think it's a fantastic program. It's talked about everything I've talked about the last 15 years, to the department heads, to the mayor, and I'm really encouraged by that we can implement this, and it is really a time for this program with the housing stock getting well over 120 years old. In the older neighborhoods where you show on your map, it's 65%. And those neighborhoods really need, when you have 65% rental, you really do need kind of a push. And Rock the Block has been doing a great job for the city, and we always try to make TIF districts to make our city better. Well, this is somehow we're going to work off of a TIF district to make our older neighborhoods, which we couldn't find ways to help them. And it's just another tool, I guess, and it's very creative, by the way, for us to tap some funds that I know the mayor's been looking at for years and years. So hats off to the mayor and to your department for putting this together.
We'll keep turning stones to see if there's any other funds that we can add to this that are not necessarily city funds as time moves forward. Alderman Grady?
Well, I'm all in favor of this program, and thanks for all the work you've done on it. And I always shoot for the stars, so I think the more we can put it into it, the better. And you realize that most of this old housing stock is at our main corridors through our town, which all our visitors from point A to point B go through. And as James has commented about just cleaning up some of the broken windows on Taco Street, but we've got 114, the whole bit. There's a lot of homes that I'm hoping that will take advantage of this to give Menasha a better uplook, and that helps everyone, not just this district over here that has the high tax base, whatever, but most people don't even drive through that go through our community. I just think this whole program could make our community look a lot better. Thank you.
So what's on the floor right now is just an amendment to direct $200,000 of the excess increment to the general fund. Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, and since you reminded us, I'll stick to my comments about the amendment.
Then you can go on after we vote on the
All
amendment.
right. The proposed estimated amount is $871,000. Last time we checked, the city of Menasha has over $1 billion of equalized value.
Do you want me to add it?
So that leads me to question, what kind of impact would $871,000 have on 1 billion? It could be a lot. It might not be noticeable, but it's a start. To take away from that amount, I think would be detrimental to the results and the possibilities.
So either way.
And I'll leave it at that.
Clerk is adding a little bit to the amendment just to clarify that 200 would go to the general fund and the remainder would go to the Strong Neighborhoods Fund. It's already in the further resolved, but we're just gonna put it in what she's typing here. And it looks like following that, we can take a roll call vote on it. This is just the amendment to, so basically what this does is it directs $200,000 into the general fund and the remainder to the Strong Neighborhoods Fund. The resolution, the way it is, directs all of it to the Strong Neighborhoods Fund. So this basically peels 200,000 off and puts it in the general fund. Seeing no further discussion, if we could have a roll call vote on the amendment. It's a tie. I want to vote to have the entire amount go in. Now I'm confused, so I want to vote against it.
Well, then it can die right now without you voting.
I will vote against it as well.
Okay. Motion fails on roll call 4-5, with the mayor voting.
Alderman Sevenick.
I can't emphasize enough, this is a new program. You are spending, you know what, I understand what you're saying, but do we need to take care of everybody in this community? Their health insurance? Maybe we better put money towards that. Do we have to take care of their car repairs? Do we have to, you know, this is a bonus program. This is a social program added to our community, something unique. I just shared with Alderman Langdon an article that was in the paper from a neighboring community, a village of Winneconne, and they offer $1,000, and that's it. We're offering 5 times that amount. I think we are spenders, spenders, spenders. It is not our responsibility to take care of every Tom, Dick, and Harry problem in this community. People need to take responsibility for themselves. We are offering here a small incentive for them to make changes, but to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at it and not try to relieve any of our debt in this community is absolutely ridiculous. I'm gonna make another amendment then. If you can't live with 200,000, then I'll make it 175,000. Because we need to add tax relief. Because I don't wanna have anybody here or taking care of our debt, complaining about our debt. Listen, you have a city garage that's gonna cost us $10 million, and why isn't that before us now? Because we're having issues with that because of our debt situation. I wanna get our debt under control, and you wanna keep spending more money on programs that are nice. There's a lot of programs that we could be offering, but I just think we need to take care of this community. We gotta take care of our debt. So I'm gonna make an amendment that we offer 107, that, if you couldn't live with the 200, then I'm gonna say 175 this time.
Do you want to place that in the debt service fund or the general fund?
In the debt service fund.
Okay. Is there a second? So motion and a second to place $175,000 of excess increment in the debt service fund and the remainder in the strong neighborhoods fund.
Yes.
Is there any,
And that remainder could even be more.
it could
And
be
we may
more
have
or
other
less,
grant
yes.
opportunities and all kinds of other things. Let's take care of let's take care of our big problem in this community. We might not be able to build that city garage if we keep spending like this.
Is there further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote, please? Is it 4-4 again? In the spirit of cooperation, I will vote for this. I think it's a good compromise. I do think that I would rather see the entire amount go into the program because I think changing a $40,000 house into a $100,000 house reaps benefits for all of us. It happens actually quite often with some flippers, but I think that what's more important is that we move this program forward, and I'm willing to compromise for that. So right now, we have in front of us the motion as amended, which directs, I'm not sure what the dollar amount is.
175.
Well, the total dollar amount. Directs a portion to the Strong Neighborhoods Fund and $175,000 to the Debt Service Fund. Alderman Kruger?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to state my position clearly so everybody understands where I'm coming from on this program. I don't know how much traveling everybody gets to do, but there is a community, and I keep referring back to this, called East St. Louis, which used to be a high middle income community. They had a lot of glass factories and everything else in it. It was middle to upper middle income. They lost the industry when all the glass manufacturers decided that it's better to go over to Saudi Arabia and where the sand was for it, and that whole inner city absolutely collapsed. And instead of the government concentrating on trying to get more people interested in that community, all they did was try to satisfy the people who remained there, and it fell into such disrepair that today that the Parks Department only has enough money for the wages and maybe a couple change for the swing sets and all that. That's a situation. Now, I know that that's East St. Louis, and we may never end up going in that direction, but it's not a risk that I want to take. And that's why I'm very, very strongly for this whole entire program. I do a lot of traveling throughout the Midwest. I see communities, and I see what happens to them when they start losing industry, or when a certain section of the community starts going downhill, and the city does not pay attention to that right away. It goes into such disrepair that you can't get out of it. And that's not a situation I want to see this city in at all. So that's why I was for the whole entire amount, but I lost that battle, but I hope that everybody supports this wholeheartedly from here on out. Thank you.
Okay, so we have the motion as amended on the floor. Alderman Taylor, did you have a comment?
I just also wanted to clarify something like Alderman Kruger did. My wife and I, we pay attention to the Fox cities. We drive around a lot through all the neighborhoods, and I'll tell you, other communities think that they are above us, but they are far below us as far as their housing stock is getting worse and worse and worse. And we're getting better and better and better with the Rock the Block and our programs, and this is only going to push us up higher. A lot of cities like Alderman Kruger talked about, are a lot older than us, and a lot older than us, but when you say, where's the bad side of town? South side of Chicago, north side of Milwaukee. You always have that with the cities. We haven't had that yet with the Fox cities, so this just assures that we can be proud in the city, keep our housing stock up, keeps our rents a little higher, and that everything doesn't fall down on us. And again, there's other cities that are surrounded by us that are far worse shape than us. So I'm glad that we're taking the initiative here and putting this program together and to get ahead of everybody else. And that's what we're doing with this.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, you guys keep doing that to me. Alderman Nichols?
That's because we don't know what order we'll be in.
If I would have known there was going to be this much discussion, I would have taken that back, but.
This program benefits the entire city, regardless of where you live. 30% of your gross monthly income goes towards your mortgage, taxes, and insurance, and you qualify for this program. I encourage everyone to add up those expenses, compare it to your gross monthly income, and see where you land. And I'm not just speaking to everyone here, I'm speaking to the public as well. It will benefit many, many people in the city. When we talk about redevelopment opportunities, Menasha is, we cannot grow out anymore, we have to grow from within. This is a way for us to do that. Maintaining and increasing property values helps everyone. It helps residents, it helps our entire city, from east to west, north and south. And so this is a way for us to invest in our community, to invest in our people who live here, and that's why I support it.
Is there anyone else now? Alderman Langdon?
Thank you, Mayor. This was tough for me. I totally like the program for the full amount, but on the other hand, after hearing Alderman Sevenick's reasoning, his debate, we had an alderman, a former alderman, Dan Zielinski, that for every, I don't know, what was, let's just say he was on here 10 years as an alderman. Every meeting that I was an alderman with him for good 5 years, 5.5 years, every meeting, he would bring up the debt. We need to pay down the debt. We need to pay down the debt. Every meeting for years, that was his concern. And now we are able to throw some money, and I'm with Alderman Sevenick, to put money. We have to bring our debt down. I think I hear more about the debt in this city than I do than our housing program, than our housing stock, what's out there. As an alderman, I hear more about the debt. I hear more about the steam plant that's still brought up by everybody out there. And they bring up the debt. We're in debt. The city is in debt. So this was a hard decision for me to make my vote, but I made my vote. But I wanted to also say Alderman Kruger, and this is why it was difficult for me to make this vote, was I call him a lot. And I call him during the week a lot when he's on the road. And the first thing I say to him every single time is, where you at? And it's not because I don't care where he's at, it's because then I ask, and he tells me, and then I ask him, what's it like there? And so this was difficult for me because I went with Alderman Kruger, and I understand his position on this also. But I just wanted to make the reason why I made my vote. So, thank you.
Think we got everyone? Seeing no one else, if we could have a roll call vote, please? Hopefully I don't have to vote this time.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Okay, seeing that there's no other members of the public here this evening and we have no other business, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.